والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. Now, so we continue with our study of the three fundamental principles of Islam, Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab rahmatullahi alayh, and we have reached the statement of the author, وَأَعْظَمُ مَا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ بِهِ التَّوْحِيدُ وَهُوَ إِفْرَادُ اللَّهِ بِالْعِبَادَةِ, that the greatest of that which Allah has commanded with is at-Tawheed, and it is to single out Allah in worship. Shaykh Salih, he says about this statement, قوله, the statement of the author, rahimahullah, أعظم ما أمر الله به التوحيد, the greatest of that which Allah has commanded with is Tawheed. هذا مهم جدا, this is extremely important. إن التوحيد أعظم ما أمر الله به, it is the fact that Tawheed is the greatest of that which Allah Ta'ala has commanded with. كل الأوامر التي أمر الله بها كلها بعد التوحيد. So every other command that Allah Ta'ala has given us, from being righteous to the parents, from being just and kind to the neighbors, and so on and so forth, every other command that He has given us follows on from, or comes second to, or after this command, the command to have the Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal and observe His Tawheed. الدليل على أن أعظم ما أمر الله به التوحيد قاله تعالى, the evidence that the greatest of that which Allah has commanded with is Tawheed is the statement of Allah, وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا إلى آخر الآية. It is a statement of Allah Ta'ala, and worship Allah and do not associate anything as a partner with Him. Now mind you, inside of this verse, several things are mentioned, right? Several things are mentioned. But one thing that we observed from this portion of the verse is that not only do we have the command with Tawheed, we also have the prohibition of shirk. So we got the command to worship Allah and the prohibition of worshiping others besides Him, because the worship of Allah Azza wa Jal, it is not sound, it is not correct, it cannot be considered worship at all if it has shirk along with it. So along with the establishment of the worship of Allah Azza wa Jal, one must likewise withhold and stay away from polytheism. So هذه الآية فيها عشرة حقوق. So this verse, it has 10 rights inside of it mentioned. The completion of the verse in Surah An-Nisa, it has 10 rights that are mentioned inside of it. And due to this, the verse, it is referred to as Ayat al-Huquq al-Ashra, or the verse that contains 10 rights. And the first of these rights that are mentioned inside the verse is this statement, وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. That's the right of Allah Azza wa Jal. Now, worship Allah alone and not associate anything as a partner with Him. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Second, after that, he mentions, and be good to your parents. This is the right of the parents. وَبِذِي الْقُرْبَى. And likewise, those who are near and kin to you. Those who are near to you in relation. هذا هو الحق الثالث. This is the third right mentioned in this verse. وَذَوُوا الْقُرْبَى هُمُ الَّذِينَ تَجْمَعُكَ بِهِمْ قُرَابَةٌ نَسَبِيَّةٌ مِنْ جِهَةِ الْأَبِ أَوْ الْأُمِّ. And ذَوُوا الْقُرْبَى, they are those whom you are connected to them by way of relation, by way of the father or by way of the mother. كالآباء والأجداد, like your fathers and your grandfathers, going up in an ascending order. نعم. وأعمام وعمات, and your paternal uncles and your paternal aunts. والأخوال والخالات, and likewise your maternal aunts and your maternal uncles. والإخوة والأخوات, your brothers and your sisters. والأولاد وأولاد الإخوة والأخوات, and your nieces and your nephews. وأولاد الأعمام وعمات, and your cousins as well. هؤلاء هم ذو القربى لهم حق القرابة. So these categories and classes of people, they are what is known as ذو القربى, or your relatives, and they have the right of blood relation, or the right of family ties. Now, so we want to draw attention to something. Now, it is that when we speak about ذَوُوا الْقُرْبَى, your relatives, right? This is everyone with the exception of your wife and your children. They are your family. This is your a'ila, So the a'ila, the family, is the husband, the wife, and the children, that family unit. Everyone else, they are your relatives. They're your relatives. So they have the right of relation and blood relation. Naam, but your family, it is your wife and your children, and they have a specific right over you that your relatives do not. He mentions as well, after mentioning the right of the relatives, waliyatama, the right of the orphans, the right of the orphans, wal aitam mina muslimin, and this is orphans from amongst the Muslims, orphans from amongst the Muslims. وهم كل من مات أبوه وهو صغير ولم يبلغ وصار بحاجة إلى من يسد مسد أبيه في رعاية هذا الطفل تربية وإنفاقا وقياما بمصالحه. And so the orphans, they are every individual who his father dies. Every individual who his father dies while he is a child and he has not yet reached puberty. If the father dies, therefore, after the child reaches puberty, he is not an orphan. If the father dies after that, similarly, he is not an orphan if the mother passes away while he's young. As long as the father dies while he's a child, he is considered to be an orphan. And our beloved Prophet alayhi wasallam enters into that. He enters into that as his father died while he was still in the womb of his mother. Now, and so that child who is in this state, now he comes to be such that he is in need of one who will fulfill the duties that the father would have normally fulfilled. Now, in terms of taking care of this child, tarbiyatan, raising, cultivating him, infaqan, spending upon him, wa qiyaman bi masalihi, and doing those things that are beneficial for that child. وَرَفْعُ مَا يَضُرُّهُ, removing that which is harmful to him. لِأَنَّهُ لَيْسَ لَهُ أَبْ, because he does not have a father that who is the one that would normally do these things. That shows you the cultivating role that the father has in the life of his children. Now, the father's role is an important role. It is an important role. Now, he says, وَيُنْفِقْ عَلَيْهِ وَيُدَافِعْ عَنْهُ, because the father is not alive in order to protect him, spend upon him, and defend him. فَهُوَ بِحَاجَةٍ إِلَى مَنْ يُسَاعِدُهُ, so therefore he is in need of someone who aid him. لِأَنَّهُ فَقَدَ أَبَاهُ وَعَائِلَهُ, because he has lost his father and his family. وَلَهُ حَقٌّ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ, and he has therefore a right within al-Islam. المهم أن الله بدأها بحقه سبحانه وتعالى. So, but what is important, and the reason why this verse has been cited, is due to the fact that Allah Ta'ala began all of those affairs. Yani before he mentioned any of those other rights, he mentioned his own right. He says, worship Allah alone, وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا, and do not associate anything as a partner with him. وَلَمْ يَقْتَصِرْ عَلَى قَوْلِهِ, he did not suffice with his statement, وَعْبُدُ اللَّهِ, and worship Allah. He didn't just mention that and then stop. Rather, in addition to that, he prohibited the affair of polytheism, as we mentioned previously. لأن العبادة لا تصح مع الشرك ولا تنفع. This is because worship, it will not benefit as long as shirk is present, and it will not be correct. It will not be sound. It will not be acceptable or sound, and it will not benefit as long as shirk is present. Meaning that even if a person worships Allah, even if he worships Allah, but if he worships something else alongside him, then that worship, it will not be beneficial and it will not be correct. Now, he says, and it cannot be referred to as ibadah. This is as the author, he mentioned in other works of his, like that of Al-Qawad al-Arba, in which he says, ibadah, la tusamma ibadatan, that ibadah cannot be called ibadah if it has shirk along with it. It cannot be called ibadah if it has shirk along with it. Not meaning in the truest sense of the word, because ibadah, if you look at it, what Ibn Taymiyyah, he said it is, the ibadah, we're speaking about the ibadah of Allah now. Ibadah, ismul jami', it is a comprehensive term for everything that Allah loves and is pleased with, from statements and actions, both apparent and hidden. This is the definition of ibadah, that it is a comprehensive term for everything that Allah loves and is pleased with, from statements and actions, both apparent and hidden. Now that we understand the definition of ibadah, we see why ibadah cannot be called ibadah if it has shirk along with it, because Allah is not pleased with shirk. Allah is not pleased with polytheism. Now, he says, إن كان معها شرك فإنها لا تكون عبادة. So if it has shirk along with it, then it is not ibadah. مهما أتعب الإنسان نفسه فيها. No matter how much the person wears himself out doing it. Now, you look at what the Shia will be doing on the day of Ashura. Now, from yelling out the name of Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Hussein's dead, right? Radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He passed away years ago. If this person had passed away just last week, this would not be permissible for us to do. How much more so the Shia Rafida, he died, all these thousands of years ago, 1,000+ years ago, and they're still doing this every year. Every year. If he died last week, it would be for the most reprehensible of actions for them to do that. Now, and so this, no matter how much they wear themselves out to the point that they are slapping themselves and cutting their chests and cutting their backs and doing it to their children as well, this self-flagellation, all due to the fact that they themselves deceived and tricked Hussein and got him killed. And so now they punish him. They punish themselves every year, thinking that this will atone for what they did. Now, and so no matter how much a person may wear himself out, it will not be called ibadah. It will not be called worship. Now, قارن الأمر بالعبادة بالنهي عن الشرك. So Allah Ta'ala in this verse, He connected the command to worship Him to the prohibition of shirk. إذن لا تصح العبادة مع وجود الشرك أبدا. So therefore, ibadah will not be sound as long as shirk is present. هذا دليل على أن قول الشيخ أعظم ما أمر الله به التوحيد حيث إن الله بدأ به في آيات كثيرة منها هذه الآية ومنها قوله تعالى. So this is the dalil for the statement of the Sheikh that the greatest of that which Allah Ta'ala has commanded with is the affair of At-Tawheed. For Allah Ta'ala began many verses similarly, and amongst them is the verse that he is mentioned here. And from them as well is the statement of Allah, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّهُ. And your Lord has decreed. Here, qada, it means decreed or it means commanded. It means He has commanded or adjudicated and ruled that you should not worship any except Him. فَبَدَأَ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى بِالتَّوْحِيد. Similarly, He began here with At-Tawheed. And this proves as well that the greatest of that which Allah Azza wa Jalla has commanded is the affair of At-Tawheed. Likewise, Allah Ta'ala says, قُلْ تَعْلَوْا أَتْلُوا مَا حَرَّمَ رَبُّكُمْ عَلَيْكُمْ. Say, come, I'm going to recite to you that which your Lord has made haram for you. أَلَّا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. That you should not associate anything as a partner with Him. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And that you are kind and dutiful to your parents. وَتَقْتُلُوا وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَوْلَادَكُمْ مِنْ إِمْلَاقٍ. And that you should kill your children fearing poverty. هذا دليل على أن ما يأتي أن أعظم ما نهى الله عنه الشرك. So this also is a proof that for that which will come, meaning in the next section, that which we will take in the next class, inshallah ta'ala, the fact that after he mentions the greatest thing that Allah has commanded with His Tawheed, the next line after that is the greatest of that which He has prohibited is the affair of polytheism. نعم فإذا كان أعظم ما أمر الله بالتوحيد فإن يجب أن يبدأ الإنسان بالتعلم العقيدة قبل كل شيء. So since it is the case that the greatest of that which Allah has commanded with is Tawheed, therefore this makes binding that the first thing that the individual begins to learn, that he studies, is the study of Aqidah. He must study the affair of Aqidah before everything. Now, because Aqidah, it is the foundation. It's the foundation upon which Ibadah is built, the foundation upon which fiqh is built, and the foundation of everything is the Aqidah. It is the Aqidah. Now, فَيَجِبْ أَنْ يَبْدَأ بِهَا بِالتَّعَلُّمِ وَالتَّعْلِيمِ. So therefore, the person must begin with this in ta'allum wa ta'aleem, in learning as well as teaching. This must be the foundation. Now, فَلَيْسَ مِنَ الْمَنَاسِبِ عَفْوًا وأن يداوم على تدريسها وبيانها للناس, and that he must be consistent. He must be consistent in teaching it and clarifying it to the people. We often say that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he taught Tawheed in Mecca for a period of 13 years. But what is correct is that he taught Tawheed his whole life. His whole life until he died, alayhi wasallam. Even in Medina, he was still teaching Tawheed. He didn't stop. But it's just that during the Medini period, many of the legislation of Islam were handed down. But this is once the foundation of Tawheed had been laid down. As we mentioned, it's the foundation of everything. It's the foundation upon which we're going to build our fiqh, our ibadah. This is the reason why we learn all of these things. Why we learn fiqh is to establish Tawheed, to worship Allah Ta'ala properly. So we learn the fiqh of Hajj, the fiqh of Ramadan, the fiqh of Salah, the fiqh of wudu, in order that we can establish the Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal correctly. It's the foundation of everything. Marriage, everything goes back to the issue of Tawheed. And so therefore, it is the foundation. So he taught Tawheed in Mecca for 13 years. But then in Medina, he continued teaching Tawheed and calling to Tawheed and writing letters calling the various leaders of the world to the Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal. He didn't stop calling Tawheed to Tawheed until he had passed away, alayhi wasallam. So he says that one must begin with this in terms of teaching and learning, and he must be consistent upon that in teaching it and clarifying it to the people. Because it is the greatest of that which Allah Ta'ala has commanded with. فَلَيْسَ مِنَ الْمُنَاسِبِ أَن تَجْعَلَهَا آخِرَ الْأَشْيَاءِ. So it is not appropriate that we make this the last of affairs that we focus upon, and that we should not give due importance to at all. لأن الآن هناك دعاة يزهدون في تعليم التوحيد والعقيدة, because there are some callers today who refrain from teaching Tawheed and Aqidah. You hear ridiculous statements like, I can go and learn Tawheed in 5 minutes. I can learn Tawheed in 5 minutes, or I can learn Tawheed and like this. The Messenger of Allah, as we mentioned, he taught Tawheed for his whole life, but you can go and learn it in 5 minutes. This is ridiculous. But the people, they make such statements so that we can turn our attention away from this important affair of learning the sound Aqidah. Because once we turn our attention away from that, and we lose focus of the goal and the objective, this Tawheed for which Allah Ta'ala even created the creation, for the establishment of it, then this it leaves us open to people inserting these deviant beliefs into our hearts and our minds and leading us astray. And so some of the people, they're like this. They withhold and refrain from teaching Tawheed, calling to Tawheed and proper Aqidah. هناك أناس ابتلوا بها. So there are some people that have been tried and tested with this. لأن الإخلال بها إخلال بالدين كله. Because to have a lapse in this regard is to have a lapse in the entirety of our religion. فيجب العناية بها. So we must give importance to it. So what is Tawheed? The author, he mentioned it inside the book. Now, what is Tawheed? هو أن الله أن تقر بأن الله هو الخالق الرازق المحيي والمميت. Is it that you affirm that Allah Ta'ala, He is the creator, the provider, the one who gives life, the one that causes death? Is this what Tawheed is? Just this? He says, La. He says, no. Tawheed, it is ifrad Allah bil ibadah. It is to single out Allah in worship. This is what is intended by Tawheed here. Yes, all of those things are from Tawheed, affirming that Allah Azza wa Jalla is the creator, the provider. This is from Tawheed. But when we speak about Tawheed and its importance and it being the reason why Allah Azza wa Jalla created mankind and the jinn, we're speaking about Tawheed al-Ibadah, to single out Allah in worship, not the affair of Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. Now, because Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, everyone with sound intellect affirms that. Even the kuffar. If their intellect is sound, if they're intelligent, then they're going to affirm the Tawheed of Allah Ta'ala's Rububiyyah, the fact that Allah created them. God alone created them. Now, God alone provides for them. They will affirm this. Now, so the focal point is this: Ifrad Allah bil ibadah, that you single out Allah in worship. Because Allah Ta'ala has said, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I have not created the jinn nor mankind except to worship me. قال أهل التفسير, the people of tafsir have said that the meaning of يعبدون is يوحدون. The meaning of يعبدون, worship me, is يوحدون, meaning single me out in that worship. Make tawheed. To make tawheed. This is why Allah Ta'ala created mankind and the jinn. Again, this was the point of contention between the prophets and their people. Now, if the prophets just came and said, acknowledge Allah as being your Lord, there would have been no contention. Acknowledge Allah Ta'ala as being your creator, there would be no contention. There would be no dissension between the prophets and their people, and all the people would have accepted them. But since they called them to leave off their false deities that they were worshiping, and since you have some of them smashing and breaking idols and destroying them, now showing how serious this affair is, there was a point of contention. There was a point of contention. There was something that there was fighting between them and their people regarding. And it is this issue, the issue of worshiping Allah Azza wa Jalla alone, by himself, not associating anything as a partner with him in that worship. Doing away with these things that they were devoted to, whether it is an idol made out of a stone, made out of wood, or other than it, or whether it is a prophet that was sent as a messenger, or an angel that is near to Allah Azza wa Jalla, or a righteous person. Yani, doing away with the concept of worshiping anything from the creation, worshiping anything other than Allah Azza wa Jalla. That was the point of contention. So this is the meaning of it. يوحدون. ففسروا التوحيد إذن. So therefore they explain tawheed, therefore as being ibadah, as being worship. إذن فالتوحيد هو إفراد الله بالعبادة. So therefore tawheed, it is to single out Allah in worship. وليس هو الإقرار بأن الله هو الخالق الرازق المحيي المميت المدبر. And it is not merely that one affirms that Allah Ta'ala is the creator, or the provider, or the giver of life, or the causer of death, or the one that manages and controls. Again, this is from the Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal, but this is specifically Rububiyyah. This is lordship. These things that we have described from here, from creation and providing and giving life, causing death, and management, this is lordship only. لأن هذا موجود في الفطر. And these things are present within our fitrah, the natural disposition upon which we have been created, and it affirms these things. He says, موجود في عقول العقلاء. يعني they are present within the minds of those who have intelligence. لا يوجد عاقل في الدنيا يعتقد أن أحدا خلق السماوات والأرض غير الله. There is no intelligent being in the dunya who believes that someone else other than Allah Azza wa Jal has created the heavens and the earth. No one believes that. نعم. لا يوجد أحد في العالم كله وما فيه من الكفار وملاحدة يعتقد أن أحدا من البشر خلق بشرا. Meaning that he said that there's no one within the world, يعني including the kuffar, no one in the world, including the kuffar and the malahida and the atheists, who believes that that humanity creates humanity, that a human being created another human being. Nobody believes that. As Allah Ta'ala says inside the Quran, وَلَأَنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ لَيَقُولُونَ اللَّهُ. They're going to say Allah. If you were to ask them who created the heavens and the earth, they are going to say Allah. Allah Ta'ala has done this. لا يوجد عاقل في العالم يعتقد أن بشرا يخلق بشرا إنسانا نعم يمشي على الأرض ويتكلم ويأكل ويشرب. There's no one of sound intellect in the world who believes that a human being created another human being as a person that can walk upon the earth and speak and eat and drink. هل يوجد عاقل يعتقد هذا? Do you know of, or is there such thing as an intellectual being that would believe something like this? Allah Ta'ala says, أم خلقوا من غير شيء أم هم الخالقون. Were they created from nothing, or are they themselves the creators? Did they create themselves? أم خلقوا السماوات والأرض. Or did they create the heavens and the earth? بل لا يوقنون. Rather, they have no certainty. He says, so Tawheed al-Rububiyyah is something that exists within the fitrah and our intellects, meaning we can grasp. Yani even the most uh, uh, even the most ardent of the kuffar understands this concept that this creation that we live in, it has a creator. It has a creator. Now, he says, so this is in the fitrah. It's in the fitrah and the natural disposition, and it is within the intellect of those who have intellect. لكنه لا يكفي بدون توحيد العبادة. But it is not sufficient. It is not sufficient without Tawheed al-Ibadah, which is to single out Allah in worship. As we said before, that the pagan Arabs, they even affirm this, yet still their affirmation of Allah's lordship did not enter them into al-Islam, and it did not prevent the Prophet ﷺ from fighting against them. لهذا قال الشيخ, due to this the author, he mentions التوحيد وهو إفراد الله بالعباد. The Tawheed, it is to worship Allah, to single out Allah in worship. This is bearing in mind that the Tawheed, it has aspects. It has the well-known aspects, the oneness of Allah's lordship, oneness of His worship, and the oneness of His names and attributes. But yet and still, the crux of the matter, it revolves around singling out Allah Ta'ala in worship. وليس هو إفراد الله بالخلق والرزق والإحياء والإماتة. And it is not to single out Allah in creation and provide and provision and giving life and causing death, because these things are known. These things are known. ولا يكفي توحيد الربوبية في تعريف التوحيد. And Tawheed al-Rububiyyah is not sufficient alone by itself in defining a Tawheed. Right? Even though it's an aspect of Tawheed, just as Ibadah is an aspect of Tawheed, Ibadah is more deserving of being singled out as a definition of Tawheed than Lordship is. Because this is the reason for which Allah Ta'ala has created the heavens and the earth, for the establishment of that, the worship of Him alone. Now, we'll stop here, inshallah Ta'ala, and pick up from the next point in the next sitting. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد ودعوة غيره معه. قال تعالى واعبد الله ولا تشركوا به شيئا. نعم.